back on the PlayStation 4, we got the DualShock 4 back button attachment for the DualShock 4. This allows for 2 programmable buttons on the back to be able to attach to any DualShock 4 on the market for $30, and it was a really cool attachment. I reviewed it. I really enjoyed it. I loved, when I was playing Call of Duty, I can put jump and, crouch on the 2 different back buttons to be able to keep my, thumbs on the sticks and everything. It was a great product, and I always really wanted PlayStation to do a pro controller, right? To do a straight up, a full on, like, this is for the enthusiast, this is for the hardcore gamer, and this is for someone that is really going to utilize all those different controls with a new pro controller. Without further ado, we finally got, of course, the DualSense Edge for PS5 here. We're going to go over my unboxing process and everything that was in the box and let you go over and see all that, along with my review thoughts at the end of the video, and to see some of the setup process on the PlayStation 5 if you choose to pick up the new DualSense Edge controller. So let's get right into it. Starting off here, I will say the unboxing process is very clean, very cool unboxing experience, nice, packaging and all that good stuff and everything. And I love the carrying case it comes with as well, as you can see here on screen. But first up here, the whole DualSense Edge does come with the controller itself, a high quality USB braided cable, 2 standard analog sticks that come on the controller already that you are familiar with the DualSense controller. You have 2 high sitting dome thumbsticks, 2 low sitting dome thumbsticks, 2 back buttons, 2 back paddles, a connector housing unit, which I will definitely get to later on, which is a really cool addition, and the instruction manual, of course. Now, I want to walk you through a few of these parts and everything and see how they all work with the DualSense Edge. That way you know exactly what you're getting into if you do end up picking up this controller. So first up here, the thumbstick swapping is really easy. I will say that first off, like when I tried to pull off the stick, it definitely felt like I was about to break the stick for sure. Like, it definitely is in there pretty snug, but I promise you pull it right off, it's not gonna break, you're all good. But I did find the process of switching the thumbsticks for the high dome or low dome thumbsticks to be a little bit kind of convoluted. Like, it just seemed like it wasn't really fitting that well onto the grooves, and it was a very precise action that you had to make to be able to get that click. But you're probably not gonna do that all the time, my guess is. So, maybe just one time you gotta change the thumbsticks if you really want to, but really not that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. Next up, one of my favorite aspects of this controller is the connector housing unit. So I usually keep my controllers plugged in because I'm right here at my desk playing my games. That's me specifically. I know for a lot of you out there, you guys might be playing with it wireless, and I know there's been a lot of controversy around the battery life of this DualSense Edge, which I will not be addressing here. Not sure what the battery life is on the DualSense Edge controller specifically is, but if you're like me and like to keep yourself wired into your controller, you have this really cool housing unit where you can slip in the USB cable that it comes with, and it will lock with these grooves on the back of the DualSense Edge near the charging port, and it will lock into place with the slide of that lock mechanism. So really cool thing here. That's just in case if you are, in an environment where you have pets and they accidentally run into the wire or someone walks over or whatever, you will still be able to be plugged in. It's not going to ruin anything, and it's a very cool inclusion to the DualSense Edge in its original packaging. Next up, we have the famous response to the thumbstick drift debacle. Of course, DualSenses have been playing with this for a while now. Probably, I feel like not as bad as Nintendo Switch Pro controllers, but still nonetheless, for us DualSense people over here on this side, Team Blue, definitely stick drift is a thing. And so with this unit, they specifically made it so that you can swap out the thumbstick modules and buy new ones off PS Direct. That way you don't have to completely buy a whole new controller if you are investing $200 into this DualSense Edge controller. So it's really easy to do. All you gotta do is go on the back of the controller. You'll see a little release switch on the bottom portion of the controller. You flip that over. You can take off the black front faceplate of the controller, and I believe, to my just speculation here, you're probably going to be able to buy different colored faceplates from different third-party manufacturers eventually on Amazon. That's probably my guess. Not sure if that's true or not, but hey, I don't see why not. If you're going to be able to just take off this black faceplate so easily, why not swap it with a color that you're into? But this is where you'll get access to the different levers that are next to the thumbsticks. All you gotta do is put those to the up position, and you'll see the stick module will come out, so you'll be able to replace them really quickly if they have stick drift. On PS Direct, they're selling for $20, so that should remain consistent as far as I'm aware, but really cool that you don't have to go out and buy a whole new DualSense Edge because one of your sticks has stick drift. Now I know I like, the housing connector unit, that's cool and all that, but yo, the back buttons are able to be just completely swapped and put on and taken off with such ease. I really love this design. So they're magnetized, so they're able to just clip onto the controller itself. You'll hear a nice satisfying click to know that it's definitely in there. And what I really like about it too is that yes, they are magnets and it is definitely a snug fit overall, but there is no worry that you should have in terms of accidentally flicking them off if you pick up the controller really fast or you just make a quick movement with the controller. I feel like these are in at such a force that they're not going to just fly off willy-nilly whenever you pick up the controller in an odd fashion. So definitely really like the back buttons. Just a quick note here as well, for me personally, I figured I would like the back buttons a little bit more, the ones that are a little bit smaller. I thought I would like those more for the whole controller, but as I played with them, I found that my middle fingers were pressing a little bit too hard up against the controller and the button, and it caused a lot of pain for me personally after a few hours of playtime. So I did swap to the paddles. Those were a lot better for me personally, but I would say definitely when you get this controller, try both, see how you feel about it, but definitely for me, the paddles were definitely the way to go for me personally. One quick thing to note here about the case that the DualSense Edge comes in is that there is a little Velcro flap on the front top of the case where you're going to be able to get access to the DualSense Edge's charging port when it's in the case. So if you have a need to charge the DualSense while it's in its case, I probably will never do this if I'm being real with you. I feel like I'm just not a person that would do that, honestly, but hey, if you are, you can definitely charge the DualSense Edge while it's still in the case. And so one last thing that I forgot to show on the unboxing is these really cool trigger stops on the DualSense Edge. So you'll see it here on the back. There's 3 different levels to it. If it's open to the top one, this will be how the regular DualSense trigger is, where you'll get all the adaptive tension changes with these adaptive triggers and stuff like that. However, if you're playing Call of Duty, if you're playing a very quick, fast-paced, twitchy type of game where you need to react very quickly, what you can do is you can lower this trigger stop down to the middle position, which will give it about a halfway type of pull, you know what I'm saying? Or you can go the full way, you know what I'm saying, the full way, and it'll be a very quick press to be able to initiate that whole trigger pull. And so that's going to be very useful for those that play Call of Duty, play competitively, and need to have really quick reaction times. That will definitely help you at getting off those shots a lot quicker. All right, what's good? Really quick thing that I totally forgot to mention during my initial, recording of this video is the big thing involving the function keys on the DualSense Edge. So they're going to be over here on the bottom of the analog sticks, and they both do the same thing. So you'll see on screen here when I hold the left side down, it's going to pull up. Why is it? Oh, my controller's not on. We're good. We're good. I was like, why isn't it happening? Okay, when you hold down the function key, this is when you'll get this little menu here where you're able to press triangle for the what I deem the regular default controls on the DualSense Edge that'll reset everything back to what it was. And then you'll hear me in the coming minutes of this video saying, hey, I'll switch to the FPS profile, the Ragnarok profile, the Returnal profile. That is what I'm talking about when you hit, when you hold down the function key and you hit Returnal. Now the controller profile has changed to do the functions of the control scheme that I set up for that specific profile, if that makes sense, guys. You know what I'm saying? I just forgot to mention the function keys. They're really cool, and you can also do things like adjust the headset volume and game chat audio balance when you have those set up, but I'm not in a party right now, so that's why they're not popping up for me. And you can hold down the function button, and go into customize profile by hitting the select button, I guess you can say. And then here is where you'll be able to go in and mess with all of the different profiles and create new profiles and stuff like that. So I think I just forgot to mention the function keys. That's my bad. They're over here. And by the way, both sides do the same things, because you would want to hit the function key on the right hand side to control things like the volume and the chat game audio balance, because it's over here on this side of the controller. Vice versa, you would do this side for any of the control inputs, all that. So just wanted to make sure you guys are aware of that as well. Now moving on here to the PS5, when you have this plugged in and connected to your PS5, it is a very nice process thanks to the latest update to PS5 that enabled these different features and different menu systems to be able to set up your DualSense Edge exactly how you want it to, very quickly and very seamless here. They have really cool UI elements where you're able to see the different effects that you're making to your controller as you are fine-tuning them, because you can fine-tune a lot on this controller, guys. Like, I'm talking from thumbstick dead zones, right? Trigger stop dead zones, customizable button inputs, not even with just the back paddle to be able to program those, 2 different face buttons or whatever button you want on the controller, but you can even move around and swap around the actual face buttons themselves to be able to fine-tune exactly how you need to a different profile. And my favorite thing here is that you have 4 different profiles that you can set up to completely configure it however you want based from game to game. So I really want to just tell a little story here about how I really end up liking this controller the more and more I use it, right? Aside from the really cool features of being able to see how your dead zones are being affected, how your trigger dead stops and dead zones are being affected and everything and all that, and you can do vibration intensity for each profile as well. But what I found that was really cool with this controller is that it really gave me the ability to fine-tune a lot of my games. I want to focus on 3 games that I tested with this controller that I think offered a nice variety of different play styles and different gamers, right? So first up, let's get the easy one out of the way, Call of Duty, right? Of course, you're going to want to lower those trigger stops all the way to the lowest point. That way you're able to physically get your shots off way quicker with the L2 and R2 triggers being shorter of a travel distance, right? That's definitely number 1. Those are obvious. You can of course tie this profile to not having vibration, because who wants vibration on a multiplayer competitive shooter like Call of Duty? And a big thing here that I did, that I always do back in the past as well when I had the DualShock back button attachment, is I mapped the 2 back buttons to jump and crouch. That way I never have to take my thumbs off the sticks when I'm in a gunfight and I need to be mobile. So those were pretty easy, straightforward. I feel like that's going to be kind of like the main appeal to this controller in some ways, is definitely those very fast-paced Call of Duty-like shooters, right? But then let's go to Returnal. Returnal, of course, game of the year 2021 for my personal opinion. I love Returnal. Y'all know on the channel, one of my favorite games on PS5. And what is really cool about this game is that there are some different things that you got to take into account. So what I did was, on the right trigger with its profile set up, I of course had it to where we had a short trigger stop and short trigger dead zone and everything, so I'm able to get my shots off as quick as possible, right? That's not going to change. But then on the left side, I kept that one open because if you guys know about Returnal, you have to push in the left trigger halfway to get aim down sight, and then when you pull the left trigger all the way down, you get your secondary fire in Returnal as well. So that was very important to be able to keep that open and not have it so twitchy fast, because it doesn't need to be with Returnal, and I can set that up specifically for that profile. And for me also, in a very similar way that we had jump and crouch here for Returnal, I did jump and dash. That way I can be able to strafe really quickly and make very quick adjustments on the fly whenever I'm playing Returnal. So that was a great thing there. Really love that I was able to make specific adjustments to the controller with Returnal and have a separate profile for it and even name it Returnal, right? While also retaining my Call of Duty FPS profile for when I'm playing something that's more twitchy and more competitive with real PvP happening, right? But what about the single player game? Okay, us PlayStation gamers here, of course, we're known for our single player games. How can the DualSense Edge help me on a single player standpoint, right? And for me personally, what happened here was this solved one of my biggest problems with God of War and God of War Ragnarok from a control standpoint. So super long story short, I like to play God of War Ragnarok and God of War 2018 on the classic control scheme, which maps triangle for the heavy attack and square for the light attack, because that's how it was for the old God of War games, and I just feel like that's a lot more comfortable to be able to use, right? But a big problem that I had was that there were some abilities where you can target the axe to multiple different enemies on the play space and then let it go and throw it and it'll go to all those different targets, right? But the problem was that it was really hard to be able to aim and look around while selecting targets, and also have to press triangle or square because it's the same side. I'm using the same thumb, and so that was very difficult to do in God of War 2018, which basically made it just completely unusable for those specific abilities, right? But then it got worse here with God of War Ragnarok, when of course, spoilers for God of War Ragnarok, if you guys have not played, sorry about that, I'm showing the gameplay right now. You're playing as Atreus for half that game. So being able to have a system where I still want to retain square and triangle for my attacks, but having this element of Atreus being a bow and arrow character, that made it very difficult for me to play Atreus during God of War Ragnarok. But now with the DualSense Edge, I can just have L2 and R2 be aiming and all that, right? But now I can map heavy and light attack to the back buttons, so if I need to aim down sight, I can now do that and aim properly and be able to shoot with my back button. That completely changes the game. That was definitely a very cool revelation that I had, where it really solved my woes on being able to play God of War in the classic control scheme. So overall, do I recommend the DualSense Edge PS5 controller? Okay, I would say it is very overkill for most players on PS5, right? That's what I would say personally, right? Like, I feel like if, you're someone that is a little bit casual, maybe plays the game here and there, a little Call of Duty, a little 2K, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you're not super into games, right? I feel like this might be a little bit overkill for you, especially at $200. That's just my personal opinion. But if you are into these back buttons, if you're into all the ways that you can fine tune this controller, and if you are someone that I would say definitely is a little bit more on the hardcore side of a gamer, someone that really does enjoy fine-tuning their controls to their exact specifications, then I would say maybe look into this for sure. But at the end of the day, this is a very high price controller, right? And you got to really know that you definitely are going to use this and definitely have a case for it. That's why I really tried to play 3 different games overall on the kind of gaming landscape that you might likely find a way to use the DualSense Edge in a way that's going to serve you, because I feel like there's a lot of different ways that you can really change this controller and really fine tune it that I think is super beneficial for those that are really into games. But I will say, if you're just the average player, don't think that you need to go out and spend $200 on this controller. You know what I'm saying? Maybe there's a sale in the future. If it's a lower price, then maybe you can really gauge that for yourself. But I would call myself a pretty devout gamer, you know what I'm saying? And I definitely found a lot of really cool uses to use this controller at for the different games that I play, and I feel like it is going to be very beneficial for me to just have an extra set of buttons on the back to be able to map certain things that I want to make sure feel good for the control scheme that I am using. But down below, guys, what do you think? Are you going to pick up a DualSense Edge? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Let me know all your thoughts down below in that comment section. Make sure while you are down there, do not forget our description. You can find links to our Discord, our Twitter, and of course our Anchor link that you can listen to our long form content and podcast format. I've been slacking. PlayStation Weekly hopefully returns this week. You know what I'm saying? I had to figure out a better workflow for that, but we're going to definitely get in tune in the rest of the year. And of course, we have Let's Watch The Last of Us HBO series all going right now as well on the podcast services. We have episodes 1 and 2 going up, with episode 3 later on in the week with my boy Mario Rivera. Like the video if you enjoyed it, as well as hit subscribe to PlayStation Source to keep up with the latest and greatest in PlayStation. Thank you all for watching, and as always, greatness awaits.